Hey everyone, welcome to the Grow Chat by Mailmoto. Today we have Kat Pay with us in this Grow Chat where we are going to talk about email experiments and A/B testing and how we can increase conversions with the help of email A/B testing. So Kat is the author, speaker, and founder of Holistic Email Marketing. Her book Holistic Email Marketing has been an international bestseller in 2021, and she also practices consultancy at Holistic Email Marketing. And she's been living and breathing emails for more than 2 decades now. Hi, Kat. Welcome to the Grow Chat. How are you feeling?
Yeah, hi Nancy. Thank you very much for having me on this growth chat. I'm feeling good, a little bit hot. It's nice and hot today, so here in Antigua, but aside from that, good.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you taking out the time for this. Um, yeah, let's get started. I think we can quickly start by knowing more about you and how this journey into email marketing started for you. How did you coin this concept of holistic email marketing and everything? We would love to know more about that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so as you said, I've been in the email marketing industry now for I think it's close to 24, maybe even beyond 24 years. I originally had one of the early ESPs, created that from scratch and was the design, the feature architect as such. And then I decided what I really loved to do was to help marketers to deliver a great experience to their customers. And so, therefore, I went and pivoted, went consulting. Um, and shortly thereafter, what I did was I kept on thinking about. Sorry, is that really noisy? Can you hear that? That's okay? Okay, good. Good, good. So what I found that everyone was talking about, this was kind of like around 2009, the crux of when everyone's talking about multi channel marketing, omni channel marketing, things like that. And I'm sort of going, I've always believed in taking the subscribers perspective, basing, and which is very much what holistic's all about, is looking at the customer journey. And I found that that whole terminology, multi-channel marketing, whilst coming from a good place, they want to do a good job. It's more about how can we make our channels work together, as opposed to how can we enhance the experience of our customers using multiple channels across the touch points, right? Across their journey. And therefore, that's when I came up with the holistic approach. And I went, we need something that's more subscriber based, that's more, looking at the client as such, or the customer, rather than us. So be less brand centric and more customer centric. And so, holistic approach actually, on the philosophy started talking about it. It took up big time. First I used to have to actually, sort of like explain exactly what it meant, and now it's kind of like everyone just takes it for granted. They all understand. There's never a conference I go to where I don't hear it said about 4 or 5 times. So it's really, really good, and it just means that marketers are wanting to actually give a better experience, that more holistic, customer centric based, um, experience to their customers, which is great. And we're going to be talking about A/B testing. I kind of extended that then also. So we have a methodology, which is the A/B split testing methodology, but it's a holistic way as well. So which we'll get into later.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kat. Thanks for sharing so much about you. Let's start with, why, in your opinion, you think it's really important to do A/B test or, experiment with various components of the email.
Yes, it's the one thing that has always bothered me is we as email marketers don't do enough testing, A/B testing. And I think there's lots of reasons for doing that, or lots of reasons for that having been the case. One is we as email marketers tend to fall into being an email marketer, and we're not necessarily marketers. So we've never actually particularly learnt how to do a scientific A/B split test, right? And so often what happens is that we just use the tools that are available to us, and they don't give you the full story. They don't allow you to do a really, really good, robust test, in my experience. And so based upon that, then we don't always do that scientific based test, and we don't use hypotheses, and therefore we actually set ourselves up for failure. And so, when I go and interview people, marketers, and I say, why aren't you testing? And they say, well, we tried, we want to, we really do want to, we tried, but it just didn't make any impact. And that's because they were actually testing the wrong way, when I delved into it, right? And I think that's one of the problems. And I'm not blaming marketers for this. This is just how it happened. But that's why I think A/B testing is so important for us to really fully understand and start doing. And if we do it properly, we're going to make those. We might make a big change, right? And I certainly have with some clients. We've had some amazing results. And other ones, we're just making incremental changes, which over a period of time tend to build up. And that's called the aggregation of marginal gains. And so, all those tests, whether it's a big gain, or whether it's just an amazing learning that you can share across different channels, or whether it's just that incremental gain within your email marketing program that, over time just develops and brings in increased revenue and increased conversions, then yeah, I think it's definitely well worth it. And it's something that the email marketing industry is sorely lacking in.
Got it. Correct. So let's talk about the like what is the most crucial thing you think in an email marketing campaign for it to be really successful? Uh, yeah, I mean, would you like to throw some light there?
Yep, sure. um, I'm going to say, actually, I can't not say, I have to say more than one thing, right? You have to start with a hypothesis, and I think that's where a lot of failures begin. Because what happens is that our innate sort of, particularly if we've not learned otherwise, we will kind of compare this with this. So on the spectrum, they're very close together. We're sort of going, maybe we're going to just choose a subject line, and then we might flip the words around, and we might just do this, and we might, and we're kind of just looking at the actual words or the positioning of the words. Maybe we're testing emojis, something, but they're not that. They're seriously really close together. The closer they are together, the less likely you're going to have statistical significance, right? So the further they are, the more likely you're going to get that. Of course, you've got to take into the sample size has got to be taken into consideration, or if you're doing automations, the time, so they all have a significant impact too. But getting it right from the start and saying, I want to test this against this, that's a crucial thing. So start with your hypothesis. And one of the things that I find why people tend to be, or marketers tend to be, a bit hesitant about using hypotheses is because generally when you write a hypothesis, you say, I believe that, B is going to give us an uplift over variant A because of, and that because is really important because that turns into the learning. But what it means is that you're actually putting you're standing up and saying, I believe, right? So that means that if it doesn't work out, you failed. Yeah? And people are scared of that. But the reality is you haven't failed. You've got a solid hypothesis, and if it turns out to be different, that's okay. You use the knowledge, the insights, the questions and everything that you had to actually formulate that hypothesis. And the reason why you're testing is because you don't know. So, so don't think that you failed. You still have got a valuable learning if it turns out to be a statistically, significant event or test. So I would say that definitely. And then the next one is choosing the correct success metric is really, really crucial. I have seen, because when what we do is we will start with a new client and we do an audit about what they're currently doing, and that includes, auditing what they're currently doing as far as their experiments and their A/B split tests and everything. And we see how they do it, how they perform it, how that, what the success metric is, what the results are. We go through and analyze all of that. And more often than not, what we find out is that they're actually using the wrong metric. And if you were to measure all of the metrics within that particular campaign or program, whatever it is, you would see it very, very clearly that they're using the wrong one. So many times I'll see subject lines being tested on open rates. Okay. In fact, the majority. In fact, that's a pretty standard teaching within our industry. And I think, I'm there all the time saying don't. And the reason why I say this is because one, we've done significant amount of tests, and I can see that, and I've got so many examples where the open rates are highest, but actually the conversion rate is actually the lowest. Just because you've increased your open rate doesn't necessarily mean that you've increased your conversions. And you can see this really, really clearly when you go into your database and as an as an exercise, right? Pull out the top 10 campaigns, recent campaigns, based on open rates. Then pull out the top 10 campaigns based on clicks. Then pull out the top 10 campaigns based on conversions, whatever your definition of conversion is, whether it's white paper download or actually product support, right? You will find out that those are not the same. Okay. So this means that what we're doing is that if you're only rewarded on opens because you're a publisher or something, that's how you get your monetary, return, then that makes sense. Then opens is your success metric. But if you're rewarded on conversions, then with your A/B split test, I'd be looking more towards a click if you can't measure the conversions, or the conversions if possible. Now, of course, that generally means that you can't just do a quick little 2-hour test as well. Okay, so that kind of changes things up a bit too. And also, of course, it makes your statistical significance a little bit harder to achieve, because if you look at it, so open rates are at the top, we've got the most open rates, then we've got more click-throughs, and then, or, fewer, less click-throughs, and then at the very bottom, we've got just the conversions, right? So you need to have a bigger sample size if you're going to be using conversions as your success metric as well. So there's a lot to go into this, but as a rule of thumb, always understand that every campaign that you send has an objective. Your success metric should be mapping back to that objective. It's really that simple. So if your objective for that particular campaign is to actually achieve, sales, then that is going to be your success metric, is your conversions. So that's what we need to be very mindful of with doing tests, and that's one of the things I find doesn't happen enough.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. So, what do you think for conversions? Like, what are some of the important components in an email that you need to test specifically when you're focusing on conversions?
So what we like to do with the holistic testing approach is because we're using a hypothesis, and the hypothesis, what we like to do is we like to test motivations. Again, we're not necessarily testing components or factors. Sometimes we will. Sometimes we'll test the positioning. Sometimes we'll test the offer, right? Often it will be, though, the motivations, benefit versus savings, things like that. And when you're testing them and you're using a hypothesis, that enables you to basically have a clear winner in mind, or a clear winner, because you're testing something that's so different, as I was saying beforehand, right? And then it also enables you to be able to test multiple factors, right? This is the beauty of it. And if you're testing multiple factors, then what you're doing is that you're making your test more robust. So if you are testing, say, let's stick with savings versus benefits, okay? So if you're testing those, you'll have variant A will be all savings, variant B will be all, everything is going to be towards the benefits. So savings could be subject line, could be the supporting image, could be the first paragraph, could be the landing page copy, it could be the call to action within the email. So you can have multiple components all supporting that particular hypothesis for variant A, and then the same for variant B. So that makes them more different, which makes them more likely to be, statistically significant results. And you're still doing a pure A-B split test. You're not doing a multivariate test, right? Even though you're testing multiple factors, it's still not a multivariate test. You are going to know the result, and you're going to know why. You're going to know why it won, and you're going to be able to then use those learnings to carry out and over across other channels to help them out as a starting point for them to do further tests as well. And that's what we call the holistic approach. So it's basically starting with your hypothesis, making sure that you're not just testing a subject line, but you're testing something that's going to give you insights into the audience. And this is what, to me, is the most exciting thing about the A/B testing, the holistic approach way, is because you now have got amazing insights you can feed into not just your email program, but your business itself. So think about email marketing as a testing place, right? We are a push channel. So that means that when we've got our audience already there, we don't have to pay for audiences to come as you do with a landing page test. We don't have to be driving that traffic. We've already got our audiences there, which is wonderful. So it's very cost effective. It's very immediate as well. So as immediate as we want. And so and we can also be testing down to different types of segments. So different types of audiences as well. And we can be looking at it that way and testing. We will find out that maybe a result of the same test of maybe your new audience, right? Maybe they actually prefer the savings. And then we might find out that your loyal audience prefers the benefits because they've got that relationship with you, okay? So all of these are really, really interesting things that we can be learning. And we have to understand that the insights that we gain from these tests, we don't just leave within email marketing, because what we're doing is we're actually testing to see what our audience, so our first-time buyers, our prospects, our second-time buyers, our loyal buyers, whatever it is, how they resonate with our offer, with our message, with our positioning, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So this is where it starts to get exciting, because we can start using it for making business decisions. So email marketing, testing within email marketing can actually help to move the dial within the actual business itself, not just within the email program.
Right. Got it. So, from your experience, would you have any examples on the top of your mind right now to share with us? Any examples of an A/B test that you probably did and that really helped you in any way, to change your success matrix and to achieve your success matrix. Um,
Yes. So I'm just trying to think. I think it was possibly one of these ones. We do like to test savings versus benefits and other kind of emotions like that. And so it was one of those kind of tests where we're actually testing an emotion. And the open rates were statistically not significant. Okay, so didn't really make an impact on open rates. They're pretty much the same for version A and version B. Click rates, there was something like 80% statistical significance with like a 3% uplift. So, ignore that result as well, right? We're not going to make any business decision based upon that. It's not solid enough. When we get to the actual conversions, what we found was it was something like, I mean, it was double. It was the one, I think it was variant B, actually gave double the results of variant A. So these are the kind of things which they are exciting. Now that's not typical. So don't think that that's going to be typical or anything like that. But it really does show how measuring the correct metric really makes a difference. And because if you're just basing on open rates, you say, oh, that was a failure, but in reality it actually brought in double the amount of revenue, so it's not a failure by any means. Yeah.
Got it. Great. So how or on what basis do you would you suggest segmenting the email audience for A/B testing?
So, I mean, I was referring to this before, and it's great because it means that you can be testing. And I would be definitely, because most of us have got very large quantity of inactives, right? What we would deem as being inactives. And so they're a great segment to be testing on, and to be seeing what works within that particular segment, to be reactivating them, to be motivating them, and all the rest of it. Okay. But at the same time, you still need to ensure that you are delivering the statistical significant results, which means you need a hefty sample size, particularly if you're using conversion rate as being your success metric. So testing within segments is great, particularly if you have a big big database. If you don't, then you're more limited. And I'm not saying that you can or you can't do it. It's up to you to do it. But again, one thing that we have done with clients who have got small databases, because we're using the hypothesis, we will test that. You always test hypotheses multiple times, so you'll always run a multiple test, because you don't believe in just the one, and therefore having that hypothesis enables you actually to run it multiple times. And you could have different wording, you could even have different offer and everything, as long as it's supporting the hypothesis, it's okay. Sorry. um But the key factor here is to get that sample size, and that is often the problem. So what you can do is you can, if you want to be testing segments, but you haven't got a significant, or hefty sample size, or the right sample size, then you just go and you test it multiple times. And so what you will be doing is you will be doing an A/B split test, so 50-50, or and do it over time. And then you can be checking to see how it is. And it's kind of like building up, as opposed to just doing it the 3 times. You might have to do it more times, and then you aggregate all the results over time, and then you get your statistical significance. Does that make sense? So you're not going to be doing it on a campaign by campaign basis, but you're going to take all the results, aggregate them over time. So it's not 100%. It's not ideal. It's done better than not doing anything, right? Done like better. So I look at that as being the alternative that you can turn to if you really want to find out something, but you don't have the sample size needed. Then just do it over that period of time, and you will still get insights. But like I said, it's just not 100% like you would.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it would probably also make sense to like send it more to your active users, and then sort of have that division of people who have recently opened your emails, and then divide them into sort of that kind of segment, to see if if your hypothesis is really working.
Yes. Well, okay. So if it's just a general one, yes. because they're nice and active and everything. But if you're actually looking to reactivate your lapsed audience, then don't be testing it on, because their motivations are completely different. Their relationship with you is completely different. So, you're going to set yourself up for failure there, because what actually appeals to them may not appeal to those people who used to buy from you but no longer do.
Got it. So, if you had to sort of list down some of the best practices for email A/B testing, uh, could you throw some light on that? Like, what could be the best practices according to you? Like, probably top five best practices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. First one, obviously, hypothesis. Start with a hypothesis, right? And all that means is start asking questions. Look at your results. Look at your metrics. Look at go into GA and go, oh, this is really good, but that's a bit weird. There's an anomaly there. I wonder why that is, right? Start just being curious and really, really delve into the data, and you're going to find anomalies. You're going to find things that's going to stimulate your mind to say, I wonder why. They're your hypotheses, right? So start with that. Identify straight away what your success metric is. Doesn't mean that you're not measuring the others. You are. You will definitely, because again, you want to be looking for anomalies. You might end up finding out, which again, we've done on numerous occasions. You might end up finding that the open rate, the click rate, the conversion rate, they're all great for, they're the winners for variant B. But you find out that average order value with variant A is actually higher than variant B. That now is going to turn into a new hypothesis, and we're going to be testing to understand why, because we actually want the average order value to be increased with the value with the variant B version as well, right? So we're going to start looking at that. So identify your success metric, record your results. Now, this is another thing. We tend to just leave them within the system itself, and we don't have them for future reference. We don't have them necessarily recorded, and we're not necessarily recording the right things. We don't necessarily write down the hypotheses. We don't write down the conclusion. Therefore, we don't also write down the recommendation. The whole idea is this now is going to become, a valuable document for teams in the future. To actually have a look at and see what has been tested, why it's been tested, what has won, what were the learnings, were they applied, how have they been applied, and delivered further results accordingly, and all the rest of it. So this is the kind of thing that we need to do. So even if you are using the system to do it, go in and manually just do it in Excel if you need to. That's not a problem. Just keep it there. And then this is also going to be providing you with food for thought, because you might say, well, we actually tested this offer 6 months ago, but the economy's changed, or there's a new prime minister or president or something like this, and there's something happened. I wonder if. And then you might say, okay, so we tested it 6 months ago. We wouldn't normally test it within 6 months because it was an offer one. It was pretty distinct, but we're going to test this one. So you can go in and test that again, if you've got good reason like that to do that. What else is there? And then, of course, like I said, so you're writing down your conclusions. What you're going to do with those conclusions is you're going to share them with your other teams, right? So your social media teams, PPC, landing page teams, your website teams, all the rest of it. You're sharing this information and saying, hey, listen, we did this. And, we think that it could be relevant for you. It might be a good place for you to start testing. So it's kind of like we do the basic testing or the initial testing, and then you give it to them over at this point, and they can keep on refining if they want to. Or else they can just take it and say, run with it, and actually then find out actually it's delivering better results. So I think that that's probably the last thing, which I think is often missed out. We tend to keep our results very much to ourselves. We might deliver them to the team at the team meeting or to the C-suite in a report or something like that. But then it's kind of like it's, okay, move on to the next thing. Whereas as a whole, the business itself can benefit from these test results. And not only that too, I've had I've had a client, we help them with this. I've had a client where we've actually gone in and done all of these tests, created a business case, and put it towards, and then also shared some of the results with some of the other teams, put the results in, and then we ended up being able to get more budget for the email team because they decided that what's going to happen is email is going to be like the crux of the email of the testing program, and then it's going to, because it's very cheap and economical and everything like that, and then we can go and further enhance and improve those results within different channels. I'm not saying that every single result that you come across within email marketing is going to be applicable. And when I do presentations on this, I give an obvious example. In and So this is basically, which I'm just trying to think of what it was. It was really obvious. I think it was an image. No, there was one thing. Anyhow, so you just need to start, use your common sense and go, actually, no, this isn't applicable. And that's why if you start testing motivations, it really can help, because motivations are central to everyone, right? So social media's audience, oh, guess what? They're the same audience as email marketing. There's a big crossover. Those people who have gone and clicked on the PPC ad, right? They're going to be the ones that are on our new prospect list, right? So we can see there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally that makes sense. So, I mean, that was really amazing how you laid out all the best practices for email A/B testing. I think that was really helpful. I think the last one that we would like to cover is the mistakes that one should avoid while doing A/B testing and while experimenting.
We kind of have touched on them. One of them is using the wrong metric, success
Yeah,
metric, right? And that's a very common one. One
yeah,
is not gaining statistical significance. Again, um, if you keep on achieving or not achieving statistical significance, start questioning what it is that you're doing. Have a look at your hypotheses. See that they are different enough, that you're starting from a right place, the correct place, because it's more likely that they're going to be too similar. Or you're not letting the test run for long enough if it's a program, an automation, or if it's a campaign, you haven't got your sample size isn't significant enough as well, isn't large enough. So there's lots of calculators out there. You can calculate your sample size. You can go and calculate your statistical significance. They're all free calculators. I'd be putting down all of those results within the actual report as well. And then the other thing is that most people aren't reporting and aren't then learning and applying. What happens, generally speaking, and I've got to say this, it is changing, it is evolving. Marketers are actually recognizing that A/B split testing is actually delivering the goods, and they're doing a better job at it. So it is changing, which is fantastic. But but basically, what happens is that the when you are doing those tests and they're not significant, you tend to become a bit disillusioned, and so you tend to stop testing. So I would just say in that case, don't don't stop testing, just test differently, right? So just go and make sure that you're doing it a robust test. And again, remember, you can be testing different metrics, I mean different components, if that is the case. Yeah, so I think they're the main things really that I tend to come across where they do the test wrong. Yeah.
awesome, awesome. That's really helpful, Kat. I think, yeah, I mean, it's all about just keeping on testing, change the ways that you're testing out in. But yeah, I think testing is really important. Yeah, testing your hypothesis. That's important. Great. Thanks for those insights, Kath. I don't think we have any questions here on the chat. Yeah. So, any parting thoughts you'd want to share before we close this?
Okay, yes, probably just the one. You can see that I'm very passionate about testing, right? And the reason why I'm passionate about testing is because it works. So really, really try, look into it. And again, if you do want to get that additional budget, I know it's time consuming. It means effort from yourself and everything. But if you can get some good results, then it will reap the benefits for not just for the company, but also for you personally as well. If you're actually bringing this in and introducing it and working with your team members and all together. So, yeah, so carry along with it and yeah, hope it all works out.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Kath. I think, yeah, we can close this now. And we had a really amazing chat with you. Got to learn a lot about email A/B testing. I'm sure there's more that you could keep going on about, and there's so much to talk about it, I'm sure. But yeah, we I think we'll catch up with you later again. And yeah, thanks for now. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kath. Bye bye.